If I'm going to call myself a game developer, I need to be developing games. I just don't want to spend months upon months working on a single project, like how Trash Panda turned out for me. My brain just doesn't operate that way, so I've challenged myself. Instead of working on that dream game that'll take forever, I'm instead going to make small, simple games. Small, simple games that can be developed and published within about a month. Which brings me to EggTown. I actually made this game in January, and I decided to hold off publishing it until Easter. Happy Easter, by the way. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about that month. EggTown is my first in the series of exceedingly simple games. I was inspired by Bunny Forest, a game I found on itch.io by searching for tags like cozy, cute, maybe exploring, maybe animals too. I had a mood or a vibe that I just wanted to play, and I found this, and I loved it. It's a simple, simple, simple game. Find the carrots. That's it. I'm also inspired by a lot of the asset packs I've bought over the years, including this one right here, the Cinti Studios Explorer Kit. This character here in particular, there's something about her that is just so cool, and I find myself using her over and over again, albeit I recolor her to make her more mine. But I decided I'm going to kind of lean into using this character and sort of, build a lore around her or something. More on her in another video. I'm also in love with Malbers Animation's Forced Animal Packs. I love including creatures like these in my games, so naturally I had to include the bunny. So I've got my player, I've got my bunny, I've got town assets, I even have an Easter pack. Okay, let's review the scope. A cute, self-contained small world to explore, many spawn spots for potential hidden eggs, simple movement controls, an egg collection mechanic, a counter to know how many eggs remain, solid colors, storybook feeling, kind of isometric-y looking, a procedurally generated dockyard area. No. That's scope creep. I'm not doing that. A cute bunny companion. That shouldn't actually be too hard considering I've previously created a companion animal, who also happens to be a bunny, using the Malbers animal controller in this deer and bunny game that I never finished. I might get back to that one day. Okay, so I've got two characters. Why not make this a multiplayer game in which one player is the bunny who hides the eggs on player number 2 and player number 2 is hit? No. That's too much. Scope creep. Just a cute companion. Well, maybe the bunny could provide hints if the player were to pet the bunny. No, scope creep. Nope, no scope creep. Though, I will write that idea down. Okay, what else? Populate the town with NPCs who... No! That's a whole other thing. But you know what? This is it. This is enough. It's just an egg finding game. So let's leave the project scope at this. And that's what I set out to do. I started building the world with the assets I have. I added a rigid body to some of the objects. That was simple, so I did it. I thought it would be cute if the physics on the wagon kept it going in a semi-straight line. And then I ended up spending 3 days trying to make that work, as well as making sure that it plays a little squeaky wheel sound. Okay, so scope creep. I got so into this wagon that I didn't realize how much time had passed. I became obsessed with it. I spent days on this one thing. If I'm really going to make a new game every month, I have to learn to avoid stuff like this. Yes, the wagon is really cute. And yes, it adds to the game in so much as the players will say, oh, that's cute. But does it really add to the core experience of finding eggs? No. So I started a list. I started a list of the ideas that I might go back to if there's time. And I found that this was a really good mental exercise. Once it was written on the list, I felt the satisfaction of having done it, sort of, but it didn't feel like the idea was lost. So I can just table it and come back to it another time, maybe. I do have to work on the egg collection mechanic. That's important. The way the Malbers animation controller works is basically you've got states and modes. States are like things like your locomotion, your jumping, sliding, whatever else. Modes are like the one-off actions, like punching an attack, or actions like sitting down or petting or power up. Well, I needed to create a kneel collect, as in to kneel down and pick up the egg. Zones are another component of the Malbers ecosystem. So here's the zone on the collectible egg. The collectible egg, actually, it just spawns one at random. So that's why there's nothing there right now. But here we have a zone, which includes this trigger collider. And when triggered, when an animal enters in here and it activates, in this case I have it set to automatic, it will trigger the mode action kneel collect, and it will play it the one time. But also it will turn on this event riser right here. So it'll enable this, and after 1 second it will destroy the egg, and after 3 seconds it will turn off the egg. It will make that little magic poof animation there. Let's just see that. Boom, like that. So it does that. Delete. And it will play an audio sound of the poof and the bling sound. And of course, it will also remove the egg from this runtime scriptable object right here, which will collect all the eggs. That's used for something else later that I'll get to. It also fires off a little event. This event on the bunny companion has an event listener. Where's event listener? So when an egg is collected, it triggers the bunny companion to a little jump action, and that jump is just to look like it's excited. The bunny's simple AI is actually built right into the animal controller. So you have the animal controller component at the base of your animal, and then down below is this AI component right here. It has AI control and the animal brain. Now the brain, it sort of takes control of the situation and does a series of steps, and those are all determined right here in a Malbers AI state. So this state, basically, it does things like it tells it to go to running mode. It goes to follow the player. So it's going to go to the bunny targets. More about that in a second. It sets the look at task. So the head will be looking at the player's head, and a quick align task. So that'll shift the bunny's body to face the player. On the player itself, so it sets a target right here to the closest of the bunny targets. In front of the player, I have these game objects right here. I actually ended up disabling the left and the right one because they weren't really adding anything. So I just have the center one right here. So this game object ends up being the bunny's target. So it's always going to try and run in front of the character. Now, what I think is kind of cool, and I want to show off a little bit here, is I've got these obstacle objects right here. These are just nav mesh obstacles, and I've got them behind. And as you can see, they carve into the nav mesh right here. That's the blue here. So what ends up happening is if the bunny is behind the player, the bunny's nav mesh agent is going to have to be forced to go around these obstacles in order to get to the target, which is right in front. This way, if it's following, it comes around to look at you, the bunny, because of the arc of the motion, the bunny will already be facing the character when they arrive. Now, this target is also a zone, another one of these zones. It's automatic, and all this one does is when the bunny arrives, it tells it to do the action of standing. I added a pause menu with settings so you can make adjustments to the sound and all that. I reused a lot of code from Trash Panda here too, but it took way too long. I hate dealing with menus in Unity. Maybe I'll like using the UI toolkit more, but I just didn't want to add that to my learning curve for this game. Anyways, I got through it eventually, including adding an end game state that shows how many eggs you collected in however many minutes, with the option to make it more difficult by adding more eggs to the scene and then replaying. At this point, I have a game that is totally adequate to publish, and only 2/3 of the month had gone by. So at this point, I can start adding more cute, but without reinventing the wheel. For example, the character controller already has some sitting animations built in, so why not add a sit zone to every chair? Why not add some physics to some of the objects? Why not add a swing set that I could add physics to? And for that matter, I could reuse that squeaky wheel code. The asset pack that I had already imported for the poof animation, well, that's got some cute little like water animations, so I added that to the water fountain. Then I asked what other features are already built into the animal controller that I can use. And well, I ended up importing the version of the animal controller that has the whole horse riding component. So I added horseback riding. It's worth noting that there are two different versions of the Malbers animal controller. One is the straight up animal controller, and the other one is the animal controller plus the horse riding component. They basically work together. So for me to make my character be able to ride a horse, that was trivially easy. So I added horseback riding. Does this add anything to the game apart from cute? No, it doesn't really change anything. A link to these plus every other asset I used in the game in the description below. I also recycled more code from Trash Panda for the boats to be bobbing in the water. At this point, I wasn't breaking any rules about keeping the scope small. I had made the game. At this point, these additions you could categorize as just polish. This is the phase at which I should have done the whole wagon thing, but anyway, lesson learned. And I mean, also just pointing out to myself, I apparently did have the time to add this, so I could have just left it and got to it now. Oh yeah, and then there's that hint feature I'd been thinking about. Can I pull that off in just like a day or so using the tools I already have? Well, let's see what I've got. There's already a petting mode that's built into the animal controller. It's made for petting the wolf, but if the bunny is standing, the animation kind of works. So I added that to the bunny, which really is just another one of these zones. In this case, the zone, it does the mode action pet. So that's activated by the player character when they stand inside here and actually press the button. So let's come over here. Now we're in the zone, as you can see here, animal in the zone. And then when I activate it, it's going to trigger the petting animation on the character. But it's also going to do a bunch of things such as aligning the character, but also it's going to trigger these. Here we go. It's going to turn on this right here, which after 3 seconds, it's going to do the jump animation. The animal brain is going to be told to go to the closest egg. And so it's going to set that task, which is go to all eggs in scene. This is a runtime scriptable object right here. And as you can see, here's all the eggs in the scene. So it's going to set the task to go to the closest egg. It's going to change the speed to just walking speed. And it's going to tell it to tell the bunny to look at the egg. So its head will always be facing it. And that's kind of it. That's all I had to do. And so when I press activate, it's going to jump and then run off to the nearest egg. I tried to make it so the bunny will stop if it got too far away and you're not following, and it'll like look back at you. At the time I'm recording this, I never got that working, so it's not perfection, but whatever. Maybe I'll get that working one day. Making this game has been really rewarding and really educational. Probably the biggest lessons learned is how to look at scope creep, and also to let go of things that aren't perfect. There really is such a thing as good enough. I think I still have further to go in really internalizing these lessons, as you'll hear in an upcoming devlog for next month's game, Goblin Tag. Overall, I'm really proud of the simplicity of EggTown. So I think this is the part in the video where I'm supposed to encourage you to like and subscribe if you want to know more, follow my journey, blah blah blah. But also follow the link in the description to my itch.io page where you can play EggTown. And if you like it, consider paying a couple of bucks. That's what I did for Bunny Forest, the inspiration for the game. Maybe before next Easter I might change the pricing, I don't know. Also, look for my Patreon. Once that's live, I'll add a link to the description. If you have any questions, fire them at me. I'll be happy to go deeper into specifics if you ask. And thanks for watching.